Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews. I'm here with a review of a 2018 micro-budget horror comedy film from low-budget filmmaker Sam Salerno, the guy who directed Dark Side of the Womb, which was a movie that made it onto my favorites of the year from last year. One of my favorite movies from last year. It was a very entertaining, very enjoyable, despite being very low-budget and kind of bad. I'm talking about his newest movie, a kind of vampire-ish movie called Kiss My Ashes. This movie is about a vampire, a nihilistic detective, a edgy high schooler, a pimp dwarf, and a severed penis having to face off against an evil demon. And yeah, this movie is quite is interesting, to say the least. The movie, very similar to Dark Side of the Womb, is a far from perfect movie, and in a lot of ways it's honestly pretty bad when compared to your average film. It's very low budget, it isn't for most people, and that being said, this movie is still kind of fun, I guess. For the kind of movie it is, that being a micro-budget, kind of absurdist horror comedy, it has a pretty decent script. I'm not going to say it's a good script, but it's pretty decent for what it is. The acting in the film ranges from really bad to surprisingly solid. The movie is pretty well shot, and it has some nice visuals, honestly. It doesn't really look that cheap. It doesn't look as cheap as the movie might have been, and that's something that is definitely an improvement from Dark Side of the Womb, because Dark Side of the Womb looked very, very cheap. And you can tell by watching the movie that everybody who was working on it had a lot of fun working on it. God fucking damn it. Wee Matt is in the film, and he was the star of Dark Side of the Womb. In that movie, he gave a very goofy, wacky, loud, funny performance. And he's pretty much doing the same here, and his character being a pimp dwarf with supernatural powers, is probably the highlight of the film, in all honesty. The guy playing the detective in the film isn't very good at all, and just doesn't feel like somebody who could ever be a nihilist. The guy playing the vampire, Gregory, he does a good job, and the person playing the edgy high school girl, she is fine, I guess. God damn. The movie is decently shot, and the sound is very hit or miss. Sometimes the sound is pretty good. Other times it's very poor and just sounds very tinny and echoey. What there is of blood and gore effects are pretty cheap. There is one major prop in the movie that looks good, that being a severed dick used in the movie that was made by underground horror filmmaker James Bell, and it's a very good prop. The guy does these weird kind of art house gore flicks, and they're pretty interesting movies for what they are. They're not necessarily good by a normal person's definition, but they're captivating and interesting, and they have good atmosphere and good gore. And yeah, this features one of his severed dick props. I would highly recommend you check his movies out. But the pacing in this movie is fine. Overall, I guess. I will say there are some seriously slow moments in the film, and it's mainly the scenes with the detective and the high school girl. Like, those scenes, honestly, didn't even really need to be in the movie. I mean, they did because they were part of the actual overarching plot, but some of the scenes just didn't feel necessary that much, and I could see how they were maybe put in there for the sake of humor, and everything, and that's cool. That's fine. I can appreciate that, I guess. But at the end of the day, I found it more annoying and boring than anything else. The best moments in the film are the moments with Greg the vampire. He has a kind of, nihilistic, cynical sense of humor. And Clive the dwarf pimp, who is very loud and wacky, and he does coke. I don't know what to say, man. Towards the last 20 minutes of the movie, they kind of force in the final act of the movie. In this thing, it kind of feels like it was almost forgotten that this movie had a plot, because there's so much wild shit going on in it, to the point that the last act was just kind of thrown together. Maybe Dark Side of the Womb was that way too. I can't really say for sure. I haven't watched it recently, but I would honestly say Dark Side of the Womb is at least a more entertaining movie. This movie is definitely better made than Dark Side of the Womb. On the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like Nosferatu, 10 being something like Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, Kiss My Ashes sits at like a 2, maybe 2.5. There's a scene where a guy gets his dick cut off, there's some CG blood, there's a stabbing here and there, but overall there's nothing. Also, there's a scene with a heart being ripped out, but it's not really that graphic. But yeah, it's really not that graphic, but neither was Dark Side of the Womb, as far as I can remember. I remember there being a few more graphic bits in that movie, but the effects were even cheaper in that movie, so they weren't as shocking or anything like that. While this movie does have some good moments and some really strong moments, and visually it is very interesting, at least when compared to Dark Side of the Womb, it is a weak follow-up to Dark Side of the Womb. And it's really a shame, because I really wanted to like this movie, and I really wanted to sit back and, have a lot of fun with it. But more often than not, I found myself looking at how far I was into the movie, and then I was actually watching the movie. Other than the scenes with Greg and Clive, there isn't much going on here in the ways of, things that are really, really worthwhile. And it hurts me to say that, because I really wanted to like this movie. But, yeah. Overall, I'd probably have to give this movie a 2, 2.5 out of 5. It has some moments, and it's a memorable movie overall for its really surreal, weird, absurd plotline and everything. But that doesn't save it from having a rather forced final act and some annoying and or unneeded characters and plot elements. That being said, that's it for this one, guys. This is Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.